if you haven't seen the final Bond film starring Daniel Craig, then go no further, as this episode is heavy on spoilers. Vicky here, and welcome to the Bond Room Unlocked, whereby we'll be looking at my 26-year-old Bond collection and relating it to the films that we know and love. And in this case, it is No Time to Die. And talking of No Time to Die, it has been released now to the US audience, and if ever there was a film that has divided fans, it has got to be this one. Now today I want to give you my more in-depth thoughts on the film, which I've now seen multiple times, and also invite back those fans I featured a few months ago to give their thoughts now they have processed the film. Was it worth the wait?
I really liked the movie. I thought that the direction was very solid. It had a lot of energy. The pre-title sequence was fantastic. Really liked the, I thought the intro was kind of cool, how it leaned into more of Fukunaga's horror aspects.
Yes, Fukunaga was originally penned to direct the horror film It, but that didn't come to fruition. But it does get a credit for the screenplay in Chapter 1. But when it comes to No Time to Die, you could argue that that very first scene draws on Fukunaga's horror roots. A masked figure trudging through the snow towards an isolated house, a game of cat and mouse. It's very stark and it's very impactful. All in all, I think it's a really well directed film. But it does make me wonder what those creative differences were that made Danny Boyle leave the project. At the end of the day, I thought it was because he wanted to kill Bond off. But obviously that wasn't it. Because Bond is killed off. Yes, you heard me right. Bond is killed off. But anyway, we'll come back to that elephant in the room a little later on. But for me, this film is very much an actor's film, with strong characterisation, especially in the female roles. A much rounded and much more developed character of Madeline Swan, Nomi, the 00 agent, and Paloma, the tipsy, 3-day trained CIA agent.
One of the undoubted highlights of Daniel Craig's tenure as Bond for me has been Ben Whisshaw's interpretation of Q. Despite sounding from time to time like a stuffed bear from darkest Peru, Whisshaw's Q continues the quirky legacy set by Desmond Llewellyn. In this film, we learn that Q is gay, and we also learn that he has a cat. And with Amazon undoubtedly wishing to maximise their investment in MGM, I would love to see a spin-off involving the adventures of Q and his pussy.
The supporting cast for me were very strong and doing what they were supposed to do, unlike that in Spectre in 2015. Particularly that of Eve Moneypenny. Now, I'm not a fan of Naomi Harris's portrayal of this character, but I did like her little tete-a-tete with Bond in the office. It was a nice touch. And quite frankly, we all know that when Moneypenny goes into the field, things don't go well. I also think the character of Nomi was handled brilliantly, and her sparring with Bond provide much of the laughs within the film. Now, we all know that when Lashana Lynch was announced as the new 007, social media went ballistic with negative comments, but not once in this film did I feel that she was trying to push Bond aside. In fact, she's the one who gives Bond his 007 status back. She's very much a strong character, and she gave a nod to another Bond girl in the Jamaica scenes early on in the film, that of Rosie Carver from Live and Let Die, wig and all.
Mrs. Bond, I presume?
I'm Rosie Carver. I guess I have a little explaining to do.
Hi, my No Time to Die thoughts are: love the film, think it's the right length. I love all the elements in there. I can't imagine them doing it any other way. And I think it's brilliant as a way to end Daniel Craig's time. My thoughts that I'm not so happy about are Ana de Armas was fantastic, but she's only in it for about 10 minutes. And I was really hoping she'd come back. What she did lit up the screen, and it's absolutely brilliant, but I just wish she'd been in it for longer. I think the music using On Her Majesty's Secret Service, there's a bit where they do it under dialogue. I can't really see the point of that. It just feels, if I'm honest, it feels a bit lazy, Mr. Zimmer. And the last point is, I love the film. I think it's brilliant. But I'm uncomfortable with the baddies all having facial disfigurements. I think in this world, I think we've got to move on. And if you have a facial disfigurement, you were going to be just seeing role models that are all bad people. And I think it sets up a bad precedent. And I think in this time, we really have to move on. You can make them bad in other ways, but I think it's kind of a bit of a shorthand that I think we have to think about. There were lots of other things they thought about, and that's brilliant, but that's just one. Given that there were two characters in there, that's the bit that kind of just makes me a little bit uncomfortable. And I think moving forward, I think we have to kind of move away from that.
Some interesting points there that I want to expand on, starting with Paloma. I too think she should have had more screen time. She was a breath of fresh air. A Bond girl of old for me. Very funny, looked absolutely amazing, and can hold her own in the fight scenes. Now, Pete also mentioned the score and the use of the song We Have All the Time in the World. I actually feel disappointed that this song was used in this film. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is such a special film, and the song by Louis Armstrong is equally as special. So I felt that I was cheated that it had been used in this film, and I can understand that they may wanted to give a nod to the film for its past and also introduce new people to the song, but I just felt that it didn't belong in Craig's Bond because he's had no connection to the Lazenby's Bond at all. Now, for my memorabilia piece this week, I want to share with you the new No Time to Die vehicle set by Corgi. Now, when I saw that they had again reissued the Aston Martin DB5, I was disappointed, as in my collection I already have about 10 DB5s in various sizes and brands. But with this one, to my delight, this version is slightly different, as it has the bashed and beaten marks across it that we see from the Matera chase in the pre-title sequence. And with this set, it comes in a lovely black box with some details about the Aston Martin there, across the franchise. And of course then we've got the Aston Martin that we see in No Time to Die. Now, I just want to briefly talk about that scene in No Time to Die, particularly the trailers. Now, what stood out for me with this film is when the trailers were released and we saw the DB5 spinning round and firing his machine guns, and we saw Bond jumping off the bridge. It all looked fantastic. But what I need to say about it is that they didn't really hide anything from us. There wasn't really any other outstanding stunts in the film. They seem to have showed us the best bits, which, for me, I find disappointing.
In a film with more secrets than Victoria, perhaps the biggest revelation of them all is that the self-styled author of All Your Pain, Ernst Stavro Blofeld, has got a really severe allergy to perfume.
Yes, Christopher Waltz's Blofeld does make a return in this film, albeit a minor one. Because at the end of the day, the main villain in this film is Safin, who is very much channeling his Dr. No. And as I mentioned in my non-spoiler video, Rami Malik plays possibly the creepiest villain in the franchise. very understated, very inward, and he's definitely a nod to villains of the past. Yet I do feel he's underused, and his death for me seems all too easy. But yet, he liked to make things a little tidier, I suppose.
No Time to Die is a modern classic, a fitting closure to the Daniel Craig era. Fans of the literary series are in for a real treat, as the movie utilizes story elements from the original Ian Fleming novels. The film also revives themes from the 1969 Bond classic On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and this weighs heavily throughout this film. Callbacks in the score, as well as major plot themes return that share commonalities with the George Lazenby outing. This evokes the concept of having all the time in the world, and this theme is strongly felt throughout this film and really strikes a chord in several areas, most notably when Louis Armstrong's song returns to the series. The final part of this film delivers an incredibly emotional blow. For several reasons, the events that transpired during this film all culminate in what truly stands as one of the best ways to exit the 007 series. The film makes a very strong case for Daniel Craig as the greatest James Bond of all time. You'll definitely find yourself revisiting this film several times, as there are so many layers and so many surprises for the fans to find. Very well done, and certainly well worth the wait.
Now, Bryan has touched on nods to Ian Fleming's works and also previous Bond films, and I just want to touch on those for a moment. The poison garden that belongs to Safin on his island is taken from the novel You Only Live Twice, Dr. Shatterhand's Garden of Death. And also from the same novel, you get Bond gripping Blofeld round the neck shouting, "Die, Blofeld, die," which can be seen in this film. And of course, Bond has a child in the novel, although he's not aware of it. There are so many nods to other films in this film. Live and Let Die, The Man with the Golden Gun, Tomorrow Never Dies, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Dr. No. The list goes on, and they are all paid homage to.
Hey everybody at Bond Room Unlocked. I just thought I'd give you my opinion of the movie. But what I am feeling from this movie, while I loved it, there was parts I didn't like. There was parts I had many questions, and I still do. I feel like the character of Bond has been dramatically changed from the Bond that we used to know. And I can honestly say I don't like that. I don't want, I like my Bond being rough, tough, very sure of himself. He knows he's the best. And they frankly know he's the best. But, I didn't get this sense that they put that into the Bond character in this specific movie.
I totally agree with Denise here. We see flashes of the Bond that we are accustomed to, but right from the off we see a diluted version of himself. And when he utters the line, "We have all the time in the world," it just seems contrived and so out of place for Daniel Craig's Bond. I want my Bond to be a misogynistic dinosaur, a drinker, a player, a real hero who saves the day and is not a sacrificial lamb. Killing Bond hurts. Killing Bond really hurts. And whilst I understand why filmmakers have had to go down this route, I sat there in the cinema a wreck. And not because of the emotional storyline, because I was devastated at what they had done to the character. And I know that this has had to happen, and I know why it has had to happen, and it's due to the Daniel Craig arc. Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, Spectre, and Now Time to Die. The linked arc.
The ending, I like the ending because it's it's an arc story. It's an arc, so I thought it ended nicely for Craig, and obviously they'll reboot in a few years anyway, so I'm not too upset about that.
So, whilst I mostly enjoyed No Time to Die, it will never trouble my top 10. But what are your thoughts on the film? Please leave a comment below. Now, if you have enjoyed this review of No Time to Die, then give it an MI6 stamp of approval and click on the notifications below. And why not subscribe to the channel? I've got some real fun stuff coming up in the episodes, and you don't want to miss that. I'd also like to thank my guests today, Andrew, Denise, Chris, Peter and Brian. And of course, I would like to thank you for joining me at the Bond Room Unlocked.
But what of the shock ending, where Bond, facing the prospect of raising a girl through her awkward hormonal teenage years, chooses death instead? Understandable, maybe. But if I were in his shoes, I would have hopped back on the first plane back to Havana and given Paloma the benefit of my years of experience.